Welcome to Fish Aquarium Geeks Podcast, brought to you by Palmer Aquatics, where keeping fish in glass boxes is more than a hobby. It's a lifestyle.
What is good, guys? It's your boy Chris here, back with another episode of my podcast, Fish Aquarium Geeks. And by the way, this is episode 6. I have just recently released 2 new episodes. They're kind of more personalized and amateur, where I kind of just deep dive into talking about. Episode 4 was the struggles of an obsessed fish keeper. And episode 5 was kind of geeking out and setting up a dirted aquarium with Chris. So if that interests you, visit your local podcast platforms and look up Fish Aquarium Geeks. But yeah, guys, today is just going to be a chill episode of the podcast where I kind of just deep dive into, there's going to be a theme, and the theme is you need a planted Livebearer tank. And I'm going to talk about setting up a planted tank, and we're talking about putting Livebearers in it, because I'm just super passionate about that. And we're kind of going to deep dive into some other stuff, maybe some drama in the hobby, some updates, some news. So without further ado, I guess we will get started. So first things first, I want to apologize to my following, just for the mere fact that I've kind of stepped away for a hot minute, and I've kind of lost touch with the connection that I had with you guys. And if I'm being honest, it's just I had to just kind of take some mental health time and kind of step away. A lot of you guys know my story. You know, I literally bought this house to set up as a fish store, and I just went just deep dive into it, and it got to be a lot, honestly. So because I'm in the mix of co-parenting with my daughter, and I'm a very involved father, and also trying to start a fish store in a local area that doesn't have any money for people to be buying fish and aquarium supplies and what have you. And I know everybody in the comment section had the correct answer. They were like, hey Chris, if you just well, none of that matters anyways. But what I want to say is I kind of lost myself, honestly, because this hobby is extremely addicting and I'm just super passionate. But I kind of lost touch with a lot of my followers, and you may notice that I've been uploading a lot of educational videos, and that's because I'm just, honestly, if I'm being honest, I'm just trying to get I'm trying to get a lot of these basic videos off of my slate as far as what I've created. And my channel, for the most part, is devoted to education, and I have dabbled with more theatrical style content. I try to do the Fish Tank Chaos series, and they just didn't do well. And I think it's because a small portion of my viewership is actually people that are ultra obsessed with the aquarium hobby, and I just the videos didn't do that well. And honestly, what I lean on is just the educational videos. But I do understand that a lot of times I do have a lot of fans that are looking for something more in depth and more about me. So I apologize, and that's going to be my New Year's resolution this year. It is to kind of allow you guys back into my life. And just to update you guys, I've kind of stepped away from the idea of a store, and I've just kind of brought the hobby back to being a hobby, and it feels great again. You might notice that I'm uploading. That's because I actually have the mental health to just be creating videos, and that's kind of, at the end of the day, this is a tough hobby to make money in, and I talked a lot more about this in the previous episode on Fish Aquarium Geeks. And by the way, if you're looking to kind of find this podcast, just hit up Google or Android Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. The podcast is literally on all the platforms. I try to get them on there. So, and please, it really helps to leave a review. There is a couple of negative reviews that were close to my heart, and I just had to separate from them. But I'm gonna try to put some more passion into this podcast, because I checked the viewership, and there is thousands of people listening to a weird guy just kind of ramble on about fish. So I don't want to ramble too much. I want to get into the nitty-gritty of today's episode, because these are all going to have themes, and we're going to stick to the themes. So, like I said, today's theme is you need a planted Livebearer tank. And what I mean by that is that you need to take a dive, if you haven't yet, on setting up a planted aquarium. And I did a video about how to set up a dirted aquarium, and it is the second most popular video on my channel to date. And I think that's because the hobby is really listening to the fact that you can set up this cheap planted aquarium using organic potting soil. And this is really simple, guys. So get on YouTube if you haven't done this yet. I push you to just push yourself and do a small experiment. Get yourself a small 10-gallon aquarium if you want to start small. Maybe you need to hide it from your spouse or something. Or maybe you need to hide it in a closet or at work on your desk, like who knows. But get yourself a small little aquarium and watch my video. Just do a search on YouTube, how to set up a potting soil or a dirted tank, and watch it. And it's so easy. Literally all we do was put the potting soil into the aquarium, and then we soak it into a mud. We saturate it. We cap it with sand, 2 to 3 inches of the soil and like 2 inches of sand. I know it's a deep soil bed. A lot of people get scared by this, but just we're not introducing fish yet, so don't even think about fish. And what we want to do is to get ourselves a decent light, a little small sponge filter. We don't want too much current in the tank, and just experiment. If this is a smaller tank, get one of those small little clip-on plant lights, and just pick up some easy aquarium plants, right? If you have a small little 10-gallon aquarium, maybe get some pearlweed. Maybe get some, the 10-gallon aquarium isn't the most sought after for aquarium plants because a lot of the easy ones, they like to grow taller. So honestly, I would probably do a 20-gallon tall because that's like my favorite size in the house because you got the height. It's taller. Because a lot of these basic plants that I advise people to set up, the water wisteria, the jungle val, throw an Amazon sword right in the middle of the tank, and the idea is to fill it with as many plants as possible. Because what happens is, if we have this bright light and we have this soil in the aquarium, what happens is that soil leaches out like ammonia into the water column, and then with the light mixture, it just blows out algae. So the key here is to kind of like deter some of that lighting, and just how we do that is to just stuff it full of plants, and it's just such an easy setup. So I guess first what we'll do is sorry, we got to reverse here a little bit. I'm getting scattered. So just experiment on this planted tank setup, and by the time you start seeing success, pick up some of the easy plants, pearlweed, jungle val, Amazon swords, water wisteria, water sprite. There's so many easy ones that just take off, and a lot of times you don't need tons of like different kinds. A lot of people are like, they want to be divas and just like they need one of 7 different kinds. That is a somewhat of a good idea because you can see what plant excels in your water. But honestly, what you could do is reach out to like some local fish keepers, like myself. I'm local, and what a lot of people reach out to me, they're like, hey Chris, what works in our water? Reach out to someone that you see as having success, and then buy some clippings off them and just fill the tank with that plant. Like for instance, water wisteria, that plant absolutely does amazing here in Minnesota, and we fill tanks with it. And I tell people, take this plant, put it in your tank, and it's just gonna, even in gravel, you don't even need the dirt with some of these plants. They just do so well in certain waters. Okay, let's reverse here a little bit because I got a little bit ahead of myself. This is gonna happen because I have ADHD and I want to apologize in advance, and I talk really fast, but it is what it is. So step number 1 to setting up, like I told you guys, you need a planted aquarium with Livebearers, because this is a double-edged sword here for profit. And what I mean by that is, if you get this ecosystem working with plants, what happens is you can sell off the plant clippings, and then once the ecosystem is working with plants, literally just drop in Livebearers, mollies, platies, guppies, swords, endlers, and they start breeding, and then you can sell the yields. Sorry, I'm getting scattered here. Let's try to categorize this a little bit because I'm a scatter case. So, first of all, what is a livebearer? And this is a live-bearing fish. And I'm sorry if a lot of you guys know this because I know a lot of the ultra geeks listen to this podcast. Live-bearers, you got mollyfish, platyfish, guppyfish, and endlers and swordtails. So that's 5, right? That's 5 main fish, and they're super easy to care for. My favorites are the guppyfish and the platyfish, just for the mere fact that you do not have to heat the aquariums. And when you have a bunch of aquariums like myself, heating all of them gets expensive. We've been trying to lean down on the electric bill. And how you do that is you have less heaters. So this means that we, ideally, I think the guppy and the platy fish are the best option because you don't even need a heater. So that means your aquarium only needs the plants, the substrate, the filter, and the light. That all you're paying for as far as profit out of your pocket is the electricity on the light. And I feel like that's not that much, right? The general care basics of Livebearers are super easy. These are some of the most simple fish to keep in the hobby. They're pure basics. Like I just told you, some of them need heaters, like mollies prefer heaters. The swordtails we don't keep heaters with. So the pure basics are just like a cycled aquarium that is kept up on maintenance, and that's it. Like there's no special care tactics. And a lot of times you can even keep shrimp. We've been dabbling with the idea of like keeping really sturdy shrimp, like cherry shrimp. We have like 15 tanks right now with live plants, with platies and swords and shrimp. So, and I feel like this is like you're yielding 3 different things here. And the hobby becomes like ultra fascinating when you can enjoy it and when you can also yield and sell things for profit. Because like you'll just be telling people, you'll be like, yeah, look at this sexy aquarium. I sell the plants. I also sell these babies too if you're interested in buying some. And also the shrimp are in there too. And those can commonly go from $3 to $10 a piece on average. And the next question might be, well, Chris, where do I buy these fish? Because I get this message probably like 5 times a day, hey, Chris, where do you buy fish? Where do I buy fish? Do you sell fish? And it's like, guys, the answer has been the same. The answer to this has been the same forever. You can get an Aquabid. If you want to buy online, it's quite easy to tell the big sellers that are like trustworthy. You got Flip Aquatics. You got, I would tell you to pay close attention to like your local fish stores or your local breeders if you're in the scene. Aquabid, you have Flip Aquatics. You got the huge giant companies that you can always trust. You have local aquarists, you have auctions, you have the big box chain pet stores. It really doesn't kind of matter. People always ask me, do you buy fish from Petco or PetSmart? The answer is yes. Yes, we do. And for the mere fact that I have to drive 50 miles to my next local fish store. And there's a Petco right in my town. And I'm so tight with the Petco people that, they can honestly like get me stuff in. If you're in there enough and you become like friends with the person that orders the fish, that's all they have to do is just kind of like, if you're cool, you just have to build that rapport with the employee that works there, and they'll order you fish. And what you'll run into is that you'll have to figure out if you want to like just choose fancy Livebearers, because a lot of times you can just find muck guppies, and this works, but muck guppies aren't that expensive for resale value. So what we found ourselves doing was we became divas onto like different strains of swordtails, and we wanted like true strains, and we kept each tank devoted to like that individual strain. And same with platies. But that doesn't mean that Petco doesn't sell them. Like Petco just ran a huge campaign at selling swordtails and platies, and it was really fascinating to see. And we grabbed pretty much every single type we could find. And like the Green Lantern platies are one of my favorites, and they're in almost every Petco right now. Granted, they sell out quick because I feel like Petco finally realized that some of these Livebearers are the ideal fish to be keeping. You're right. It's small. It's easy to care for. They breed, so people can bring them back to the store and like repurpose, surrender them. I don't know. Petco doesn't sell them, but I feel like it's a smart option as far as like in comparison to what they could be selling, like angelfish or plecos or shrimp, And I think, and I know that in the comments people are going to say, well, the Petcos individually get to choose what they order, so it's different from different location. Who knows? Like, I've heard 100 different stories on like, I've heard they don't have a choice, and it just kind of like depends on like what the wholesale breeders are breeding that year, and that's kind of like what they push down their throat to sell. I have heard that Petco gets a lot of their fish from, I'm trying to think of there's a huge outlet. I'm trying to think of it. It's Live Aquaria, right? Live Aquaria sells fish 2 Petcos. I think that's the case. Or maybe it's AZ Gardens. I don't know. It's one of the huge wholesale fish places. I don't know. I can't remember if it's Live Aquarium. I'm having a brain fart here. But finding these fish is pretty easy. You know, you just got to put in some effort, get on market. I'd first get on Marketplace. I would first get in the Facebook groups, like put out a post. Hey, we're looking for Livebearers, fancy Livebearers, cool swordtails, cool platies. And someone like me, you know, I have 30 tanks or so in the upstairs, and it's like, I'm going to be like, you know, I have some babies I could sell you, but they're not, you know, I always tell people, my fish aren't cheap. I raise these things and I'm not giving them away. That's my new motto, because the reason I kind of got out of the whole aquarium store idea is because everyone was trying to talk me down on price. And when you're super passionate about something, it's hard to kind of just like, it's hard to give up on something you just spent 6 months breeding. You know, it's frustrating. Ooh, it's heating up in here, guys. I'm sure my girlfriend got her hands on the thermostat. It's probably 82 degrees in here because she woke up freezing. I want to give a shout out to all you guys watching. Thanks for the viewership. Please consider giving this podcast a like or a review on whatever platform you are on. Chris is heating up and your boy's getting sizzly. So we talked about what is a Livebearer. The general care basics are extremely simple. And, you know, the planted tank. What is a planted tank? So what we're doing is just using, usually a planted aquarium is, you know, an effective planted aquarium is the only difference between a planted tank and a normal tank is that we're using a substrate, you know, the tank lining, and we're using something with some nutrients in it, because for the majority of the plants in the hobby, they are root feeders. And when we put them in there, well, at least a lot of the fast-growing plants are root feeders. So then what happens is we put these plants in there with the substrate with nutrients, and then we give it a type of lighting. And this used to be a lot more complicated. The lighting used to be super complicated, you know? People would talk about like different T8 lighting spectrums. They were trying to get plants out of 4000K T8 T10 lighting, and it was difficult. It was more difficult. But now with the LEDs being readily available, it's as simple as pie, you know. And what happens now is that we literally just buy LEDs, and anything around the 6000 Kelvin is going to work. And I always advise people to get full spectrum plant LEDs just because they're super cheap and they're not even that expensive now. And you can get on Amazon and spend under $30 and have yourself a decent light, especially if you have a smaller aquarium. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to perfect the art of keeping a heavily planted tank. And when I say planted tank, I don't mean that you went and bought some Anubias or you went and bought some Java Fern and it's just sitting in the corner. I mean, that will work, but for like this ecosystem that I'm just raving over, the fish do so much better and they breed so much better because these plants start to take off and the fish know it. I'm fully convinced now. You know, we'll put betas in heavily planted tanks that are 2 years old, and it's just different, you know, because beta fish are just they're just filled with parasites and just all kinds of illness. And the beta fish is the true example of if your aquarium is an ecosystem, because a lot of times I see people put betas in a new setup. You know, if it's under, my honest advice is if you're keeping betas, don't even put them in a regular tank that's under a year old. It's because so many microorganisms are growing in these seasoned aquariums, and it just makes such a huge difference to have like this just fully, heavily planted ecosystem of a tank. And when we put the fish in there, they just do so much better, guys. I promise you, you have to promise me and hit me up in the comments that you guys will just give this a try. I know that I've been raving about this for just like 2 years now, and you guys are probably sick of it. And a lot of you guys are like, yeah, we've been doing this for a hot minute, and it's going great. Let's talk about something else. And this is going to be like the last hurrah of me just kind of like beating this into the ground for you guys, just to trial it. I have the video on how to set up the soil tank. It's a cool thing because people are so proud to be like, doing this Wallstead method, arguably. And what's really cool is after you perfected this ecosystem with the planted tank, what you can do is unplug your filter and do a filterless aquarium and kind of just watch the plants, because this is how you do it. You create that like well-rounded ecosystem, and then you can unplug the filter. And it's just like, it's mind-blowing. For those of you listening, don't have video, I'm doing like a mind-blowing action. All right, so and the general basics, those are the general basics on how to set up a planted aquarium. It's extremely simple. I have tons of videos on it, just blabbing. I think I have like 1,000 educational videos now, and just like blabbing about this stuff. So what you do is you mix the two. You first you set up the planted aquarium. I advise the potting soil method, or you can spend some money on like fluvial stratum, or like just any aqua soil works great. Just if you're using aqua soil, maybe consider capping it with sand. And find yourself some easy plants, water sprite, water wisteria, jungle val, Amazon swords, pearlweed. I'm trying to think of some others. Crypts are pretty easy. Rotala. There's so many easy plants that, and it kind of depends on the depth of your aquarium, because that depth kind of makes a big difference. And what you do is first you master the plants. And I tell people, don't put fish in your newly dirt soil tank setup, just because it can be scary, because that dirt is leaching off ammonia into the water. And, at bare maximum, I would only keep like 2 guppies in there and have it be muck guppies. And sad to say, but it's sort of like a test to ensure that your tank is ready for more fancy fish, more expensive fish, and shrimp. Have the guppies live in that tank for like 6 months before you trust shrimp. That's because time. A lot of people aren't talking about how big of a factor time is as far as like these ecosystems and the cycle. I know Corey from Aquarium Co-op just released a video that I thought was really cool, and he talks about less of the cycle of your aquarium, like is your aquarium cycled, but how we should be asking like what the age is of your aquarium. And that's I couldn't agree more, and I'm finding that with a lot of my experience here. And that's what I ask people, because I get thousands of messages, and it's like, how old is your aquarium? And they're like, well, it's 6 months. And I'm like, did you throw away your filter pad, or did you change your filter pad or change your filter? Yes. And it's just like, that's that's a great analysis on Corey's part. So I really I highly agree with that as well. So what we do is we mix the two. Give your planted aquarium some time to thrive. Make sure that the plants are taking off. And what I also advise people do is to think about adding floating plants, especially at the beginning, because a lot of times that soil tank kind of leaches off ammonia, and sometimes the plants need some time to kind of like start to take off, because a lot of times like 2 weeks goes by and like nothing happens. That's because the plants are going through shock, and they're getting to know the lighting schedule and the ecosystem they're in. But floating plants, drop in some duckweed, and that's going to start absorbing the nutrients, the excess amounts of ammonia in the water, like immediately. Just do some research on some super like indestructible floating plants, and think about using them in this setup in the beginning, because, and a lot of times, after 6 months of this, you're going to learn to hate the floating plants, because they thrive and they take off. The dwarf water lettuce does great, and then it just smothers all the lighting. And then your stem plants that you planted are getting 0 lighting, and you'll sit there and battle it. You'll be cleaning it like every week. I could feed a country with the amount of duckweed we pull out of here like every other week. It's insane, and you learn to hate this stuff, but it saves your butt too, because like we're literally, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, we do water changes like, we'll do a 40% water change on every tank, maybe like once every 6 months. And I know that's crazy, but our fish are breeding. The water tests okay. The nitrates are kind of high, but the plants love that. And it's just like, it's a set it and forget it. And, I have clients that I help set up fish aquariums with, and I help them set up maintenance and stuff. And we're moving everything to plants now. I used to have basic setups with like cichlids and just angelfish, and everything's going to live plants now. Even if you just have like a straight gravel setup, we're gonna thicken up that gravel bed, 3-4 inches, and we're gonna put some like water wisteria in there, water sprite, just something, and just load it up, Amazon swords, and get ourselves a decent light, because the light is huge. Because what's happening is Chris, I don't have to go and do the maintenance. And a lot of times I just tell them, just top off the aquarium. Like once every 3 months, the water's going to drop like an inch or two, just top it off. And they're like, this is all we have to do? And I'm like, well, maybe clean the algae. If you get an algae breakout, you're going to have to call me. Something died. There's excess amounts of something is screwed up. So this is the wave of the future. I think that, I know there's a huge chunk of my following that is they're devoted to keeping cichlids, which is totally entirely cool. I love cichlids. I'll always love cichlids as my passion. But like as a lot of you guys know, I'm leaning towards like plants, because plants are Mother Nature's filter. Like even in our homes, the house plants in our homes are filtering the air. I mean, that's debatable. They've done tests that it doesn't even really affect our air, but it's still a cool idea, and it brings a lot of zen to my life, and that's hence the name. My other YouTube channels, Houseplant Therapy. Give it a subscribe if you consider yourself to enjoy houseplants. Houseplant Therapy. Please go and subscribe. That's a free plug. This podcast is brought to you by Houseplant Therapy. It's a other YouTube channel that's really cool, that's ran by this weird white guy. And just do a search on YouTube's Houseplant Therapy and give it a subscribe. And there's a promo code. If you watch one video, I will... I'm in a spot here, guys. Sorry. All right, so moving on. Like I said, you want to wait a decent amount of time before adding the fish to the aquarium. And if you do add fish, have it be some mutt guppies or something that, like, guppies are indestructible. I've left them in a bucket for months, and you come back and you're like, I didn't even know you're in this bucket, and they're still alive. It's absolutely insane. And then once the time hits, you can mix in the shrimp, and you can mix in some fancy exotic live bears. Like maybe you actually spend some money on like some really sexy guppies. There's tons and tons of sexy guppies. And you can hit up your fish stores. A lot of times it's a hit or miss. With our fish stores around here in Minnesota, it's a hit or miss if they have live bears. We've spent multiple days driving around looking for different live bears, and they're just like, we got nothing here, or sometimes they'll have like weird F1 live bears that like are absurdly expensive and you've never heard of them, or it's like, I just want bright colors and swordtails or something, because I don't know, swordtail is probably one of my favorite fish, because they literally get like 5 inches long in the male, some of them. Super hardy fish, they're just full of colors. You don't need a heater. I mean, you can use a heater, but you can a lot of times transition them out of needing a heater. We actually found, this is a little side note, but we found that a lot of the fish we're getting from Petco were getting sick sometimes, and a lot of times it's because we weren't transitioning them to heated water, because sometimes at Petco it's a hit or miss if they're heating the tank or not. And I kind of learned when I was buying fish from there, I would bring my little temp gun and just be like, okay, when they would turn their head, I'd check the temperature of the tank, because obviously that's a huge deal. If they're keeping a fish at 78 or 79 degrees and we bring it home and we keep it at room temp of 70, that's a 8-degree temp change. And we're just like, what is going on with these fish? Because we treat them and they'd be fine, and we actually found it to be the temperature. So be careful if you're buying fish from big box chain pet stores. Some of those single systems are heated, like some of the walls, because they're all one unit. A lot of them, they'll have like 6 tanks in one unit, and sometimes that whole unit's not heated, and other times it is. And a lot of times, I've learned, because one of my good friends works at the Petco, and what happens is they sell so many fish within the first day or two of getting their new order in, that like the fish haven't even had time to get sick, because they plop and drop them into the tank and they look okay, and they're like, like people like us around here, that's all we have Petco is like, that fish doesn't look great, but we never see fish like this, and we'll take it. And Petco runs their warranty, so if like the fish dies, you can bring it back. It's really embarrassing dealing with that, and I hate it. And because you'll get like a new employee, you're trying to bring the fish back, and it's like, usually someone, usually when we go in there, like someone notices me or just, actually this sounds really cocky kind of, but they kind of get to know you. But if they don't know you as the weird fish guy, you'll get a new person. They'll be like, well, what size aquarium do you have? And I always troll them. I can't hold back. It's like, it's a 3,000 gallon tank. It's acrylic. It cost me $15,000, or something. And they're like, well, your nitrates or your ammonia, it's just like, you don't even know what you're talking about. But that's a whole other side note. So the cool thing about these tanks, right? Like I told you guys, there's 3 variables to make profits. You can be selling the plants. You can be selling the fish babies, the Livebearer babies. And the Livebearers are some of the easiest fish to breed. You plop them in, you give them little hiding spots, and sometimes what we'll do is we'll do like little rock piles. We'll heavily plant it, then we'll do a rock pile. What also helps is those floating plants, because a lot of the Livebearers, they'll go to the surface, and if you get that duckweed, or a lot of the floaters have longer roots, especially if you they usually have roots, and the Livebearers usually go to the substrate to lay their babies, or they'll go hide in those roots. And it really helps to kind of like give those babies hiding spots to kind of like to give birth in. And we found like even algae pockets, because a lot of aquariums eventually, like after 6 months, you'll start getting like these algae pockets in the corners, or especially if you have driftwood. And a lot of times those are excellent cover for the babies, and they'll go down in those algae pockets, and the fish can kind of like go into the algae, and it works phenomenal. Same with the shrimp. The shrimp babies, like, I know algae is our nightmare, right? But like the shrimp are they're giving live birth. The babies can hide in there, the little shrimplets, and it works phenomenal. And a lot of times this just goes full circle of like us being able to just neglect the tank. So we'll have these little magnets on the aquarium, and then we'll just clean the surface of the glass, and then that's kind of it. We'll top off water, because a lot of the sponge filters, the aeration at the surface, especially if the aquariums are heated, they lose the water volume very fast. That's a struggle here. But so you have 3 variables to be making profit here, and you're setting up a planted aquarium. So this is really like you're perfecting all of this. You have the bright colorful fish, you have the bright green foliage, and you have whatever shrimp you choose. And shrimp are all cool, unless they're like the weird inbred brown ones. That's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I don't like people mixing shrimp types. If you're gonna have shrimp in there, keep one specific type of shrimp, and just don't pollute the strain, guys. Don't pollute the strain. Maybe I'm too much of a diva. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think of that. So one question I've been getting a lot on the channel is talking about aquarium covers. Because this is sort of, it's sort of been a stigma lesson in the hobby that you need an aquarium cover, right? And the reason is because fish jump. There's a handful of reasons. Number 1, fish jump out, which sucks, right? Because nobody likes losing their expensive fish. Number 2, it helps keep humidity in, and it helps to keep the temperature of the water in, and it helps conceal the ecosystem, right? But we sort of made a transition in the house, and I got a lot of questions regarding it. And with our planted aquariums, we are no longer using lids on any aquarium. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, you're getting the humidity and the fish are jumping. And honestly, and the reason is because we're not using lids is because we like to raise the aquarium light. I tell people that raise your aquarium light like 6 inches. It helps spread the lighting. The plants, it's not so close to the light. You're not going to torch the foliage on the plants. And it very much works better. And a lot of times if you lift the aquarium light and you have a lid there, the light gets refracted and just you lose a lot of the lighting, and it just sucks. I'm actually finding that keeping, having nothing in between the light and the aquarium, the best. And a lot of times I'm even coming through with Windex, and I'm cleaning the face of the light, because the name of the game here with these planted aquariums is the more lighting you have, the better for the most part. If you have a full spectrum light, obviously, if you're using like a DIY shop light, it has too much lumens and it just blows out everything. That's not the name of the game. But if you have a full spectrum, decent size LEDs, it's built well. The LEDs are spread apart and it gets a better spread, and you sort of just want to watch the plants and look at them, analyze them, because a lot of times I'm finding that like when the plants start to reach up higher without any foliage at the bottom, you literally just have like a single stem and there's no like leaves, that means the plant is reaching for light and it wants more lighting. A lot of times like the foliage and the leaves look neglected and like less of themselves. They're not fully grown. But guys, that about sums up on like how to create a well-rounded planted aquarium with some live bears and possible shrimp. I feel like this is a great idea for anyone to set up, and I feel like you need to experiment with this. I know there's a lot of like monster fish keepers out there, and through the journey of just starting this house, we have kept so many different things. We got the monster fish pond. We have all the shrimp we're doing. We have all the planted tanks. We have the Pothos Madness in that 6-foot long aquarium. I find what I'm trying to get at is I find the smaller planted aquariums with the live bears, like the 20 gals, to be my favorite. They're the easiest to maintain. They have the least amount of problems, and you can sell. We have the best profit and turnaround on these, and I feel like this is a great opportunity for you guys to try. And if you've already tried it and you're having success and you just sat here and listened to me ramble about this, hit up the comment section. Like, let me know how it's going. I want to know from you guys, what is your best substrate that you're having best success with? Because I know some of you plant keepers, that's like the name of the game, right? It's your substrate and it's your light and then it's your fertilization. Obviously there's CO2 and you guys are going to be in a different league, but it's funny because I saw this huge argument the other day online about this CO2, and this person made a post. They were just like blasting. They're like, look at all this low tech stuff. I don't need all your fancy equipment to have these beautiful, luscious tanks. And like, there's just hundreds of comments of people just being like, yo, just because you're poor and don't want to spend money on CO2 and you can't grow red plants, it doesn't say anything about me. Like, don't attack us CO2 guys. I don't know. It was absolutely hilarious. I grabbed some popcorn. I was just eating it up, and it was literally like just like a pissing match, essentially, of just like all these people. You had the CO2 guys battling the low tech guys, and CO2 at the end of the day is better, right? The plants are healthier. They're better. You have less algae. It is honestly the best situation ever. But like I always tell people, when you have 15 to 30 aquariums, how am I going to do CO2 on all those? But if you're looking to yield more plants, CO2 is going to win all day long. So, some news in the hobby. I did have some people reach out to me and tell me that KG Tropicals is done doing live streams, and I've been telling you guys I'm working on doing live streams as soon as possible, and it's true. It still is coming. I know I've been saying this for a hot minute, but I literally just had a PC built here. It's right on my desk. One of my buddies builds computers and stuff. So I've just been having so many issues. Where I live here in Minnesota, it's in the middle of nowhere, and like just getting 1 gig internet is like unheard of. Because like everybody only needs like 30 gig. Like that's all you need, and the people were just. It's been a struggle. I've had techs at my house. They had to rewire stuff. But it's been a long struggle, but it's coming soon. And the reason I haven't been live streaming is because I cannot get a good connection. And I'm really sort of just picky on how my content is displayed to you guys. I mean, we have over 60,000 subscribers now. We had over 2 million views on this channel alone last year. And I can't turn on a live stream and just have it be like blah 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 blah. I can't, because I've gotten better with time and I just can't do it. But I promise you guys, it is coming. And a lot of people have been reaching out and they're like, "Hey Chris, you should take John's position from KG Tropicals." And it's a little scary because like he's stepping away because a lot of people said he's like his mental health is suffering and is exhausted, and it's like, Am I just setting myself up for that recipe? I don't know. So I don't know, but maybe I can just like maybe I can make it more chill and have less pressure. Maybe I can just drink heavily on every single episode that we do or every live stream. Who knows? I kind of like to have themes and themes that I'm passionate about, and I feel like that would like help me live stream and just like if I can stick to target on theme. But yeah, live streams are to come, so please reach out to me if you want and let me know if you want me to live stream and or like a platform. You know, I've been trying to think of like cool ideas because I don't like just turning on the camera and just being like, okay, let's hang out. You know, like I kind of like to have a theme because a lot of like just the hanging out just gets to be pretty monotonous. And I know my buddy Bob does streams, and that's kind of what I'm aiming for. Maybe if I can have videos like intertwined and stuff, I think that would be cool because, yeah. But yeah, I think some other things happening in the hobby. I don't know if those of you have heard, but I just had another blowout with the Facebook admins over at Beta Fish Keepers. It was extremely embarrassing, and like it got super personal, literally to the point where they were like messaging my girlfriend like stuff, and it's just like I don't know. I'm really kind of debating just like stepping away from these Facebook groups because a lot of my admins and myself are just completely exhausted of just having to deal with all of this crap and having it be unpaid. Facebook has not made this fair for us. You know, they are like the number one place for people to hang out with hobbies, right? Because maybe second would be Discord, but people aren't, you know, like they're not on, all the fish keepers are on Facebook. So like the mass amount of people are on Facebook. And I would say even like a small portion of that is on YouTube from Facebook. I don't think it's because just the general mass is on Facebook, and it's unfair to us that like we can't sell fish. You know, they make it impossible to like, because what I've been trying to do is somehow create these paid positions for admins and mods. And you know, I literally just tried something new to where I tried to use a wholesale seller, Dan's Fish, as a source of income to try to like push people to buy the fish, and also maybe we make some revenue, the group does. Like we bring people great fish and send them to Dan's Fish, and then Dan sends us a cut, you know? And then I use that cut to possibly pay the admins and mods to have a position that like this, that we don't dread overworking every single day. Can you imagine if, you know, because I've had trustworthy admins and mods forever, and if I could pay them to stay at home and just like make these groups awesome, they would be a much better platform. But the issue is we deal with all this bull crap and in the Facebook groups, and it's an unpaid position. So people just be like, I'm not gaining anything here, so I'm out, you know. And it's hard. I've found that like you almost have to find a person that is extremely passionate about the hobby, that cares about the better health of the hobby, and they just sit in these groups and they help people, and they're amazing people, and they get crapped on and they get talked about and they get, you know, it's unfair. Facebook has made it unfair to these groups. You know, I have probably 300,000 members worth of Facebook groups in this hobby, but it's like I'm ready to step away, man. I thought about just like shutting down these groups and just being like, you know, like that's my way to get back at Facebook. I just shut down these groups. But then on the other edge of the sword, it's like there's thousands of people that need help every single day. And I don't know, you got to hit me up in the comments. You got to let me know what you think on this, because I am pulling my hair out. I literally just had to completely switch admin, just completely ban the admin team because they ganged up against me. They tried to make specific rules, and this happens all the time. And they become a clique, and they don't agree with what I believe, and they go and make their own group and just say peace out, which business is business. You know, like I do have a criteria with some of these groups to not let there be crazy weird rules. A lot of these Facebook groups, you know, they have weird rules where like you literally can't even post things anymore. Like it came to a point where like we were not approving posts on people asking where they can buy fish from. It's like, that's an honest question. And the reason we banned those posts, or that was a new rule they set out, it was because they didn't want people giving certain sellers advertising. Buy fish from this seller, buy fish from that seller. It's like, Facebook doesn't allow the sales of fish. We can't even talk about this. And it's like, what do you mean we can't talk about this? Like, I don't care. I'm to a point now where, and this might sound wrong to some of you, but I am ready to go against Facebook with some of these rules. And if they want to battle me on this, I'll shut down the group. It'll be that simple. You can lose this platform of all these people, or you can work with me. I truly believe that we should be able to sell. We should at least be. I can see why selling animals on Facebook is not a good idea, but we should be able to push and advertise sellers. And I fight Facebook on this all the time. Like I was trying to push. I would tell people, hey, we would make a post. Hey, 10% off of your first order over at Dan's Fish. Here's a link to go to his website and buy fish. Facebook. All of a sudden, we get a group notification that you're going against policy and you're about to have your group shut down because the selling of animals is prohibited on Facebook. And I'm like, we're not selling the animal on Facebook. I'm saying if you go to this other website, you can get 10% off. And Dan's Fish is like the most legit seller. He treats his fish before you get them. You watch his channel like he's no joke. Like he knows what he's doing. And this whole equation doesn't work. I'm trying to get people that want to buy fish to the best seller that I believe, and Facebook has to put their big hammer in between it. And it's just like, it's extremely frustrating. And it's just like, that's all Facebook wants us to do is just ask each other questions about this stuff. But some of the questions are, where do we buy fish? Because you have to remember, the whole equation in this hobby is to buy the supplies, to buy the fish, set it up, and talk about it, and then continuously buy more stuff. We want to buy stuff. And it's just, and half of the hobby is buying fish, except now we all have to hang out in this organized platform and hang out, but we can't talk about buying fish. It's just so stupid. I don't know. You got to hit up the comment section. And I know a lot of you guys are against Facebook and you hate it, and I am ready to be done with it, but it's just like there's so many people there hanging out, and the hobby's strong on Facebook. I hate to say it. Trying to think of what else is new in the hobby. I don't know, guys. You'll have to hit me up in the comments to let me know what's going on with you guys. I know there's like tons of YouTube channels that I follow that I could talk about. But, hit me up in the comment section for the next episode. I need ideas for some more episodes on this stuff. So, and moving forward to the future, we're probably going to be live streaming some of these. And I want to kind of I got some cool ideas where like maybe I call some of my fish YouTuber friends and we'll get them to jump on. Maybe we'll have like a thing where you guys call in and ask questions live. Because I got like a cool new little phone number thing where you guys can call and I answer it. That could go horribly though if it's live, and but I can always hang up, right? I think that'd be fun anyways. So I don't know. I'm kind of just looking to bring some new ideas to this stuff. So hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what you think of this episode, and make sure to leave your reviews and all your. Let me know if you guys like this podcast and where you think. What you guys want to listen to next, what you guys want from me essentially as a creator in this hobby. So without further ado, guys, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Fish Aquarium Geeks Podcast, brought to you by Palmer Aquatics, where keeping fish in glass boxes is more than a hobby. It's a lifestyle.